I have been getting a bunch of requests to make a bunch of formulas for you guys or show you guys how you can actually use this 10% to your advantage. If you haven't seen the video talking about how to prep for Affix week, look above my head or in the description. For those videos, I do have an affixing playlist as well, or a bunch of affixing playlists. When it comes to formula making as well, there is a specific playlist now for a bunch of formula making. It's going to be mixed in with a lot of advanced stuff from the Japanese PSO2, but this one specifically will be for those who are playing in North America. I have a bunch of things I want to state, but I'll say it at the end of this video, just because when it comes to the relevance, like you guys want to know what to make right off the bat. Some of these formulas already made in those separate videos as well in the formula playlist. However, I'm going to go over all the possible things you can go for, especially if you farm for it. I kind of wish they pushed this Affix week a bit into episode 5, because once again, episode 5 is when you get a bunch of good abilities. But it's whatever. If you want to take advantage of it, you can do what you want to do. I'm only here to advise and give you guys some of my thoughts and, give you guys stuff to work with. Alright, let me talk about really easy affixes. Like, let's say you're okay with really easy affixes, like 3-slot affixes that aren't going to eat up a lot of your money because maybe you farm for these things and you don't want to spend as much until episode 5. Easy ones you could go for. This is like way back then in the episode 2 and 1 era. Like something you can go for a 3-slot. Let's say that you have a you will see a link in the description as well for all these formulas. So depending on what you want to toy around with and use, you can. I'm gonna have actually something like this is straightforward and easy. Yeah. With a 10%, this is how easy you can go for an affix. Now, is this something you would want to get? That's on you. You need to figure that out. But if you farm for all these pieces, guess what? If it's just like a Might 3, a Quartz, a Spirit 3, you can easily get all 3 of these abilities. Well, hold up. You're going to need another Quartz so you can get it. But yeah, you get something like this. Use a 30%. That Quartz isn't at a high number. If you want to increase your chances even further, you can use 3 Quartz souls in here. And then you got something like this. Then you don't need to use a, 30%. Just use a 10%. Boom. You got it. You got something like this that offers melee power and PP. Now, maybe you don't want to do it at a 3-slot because you're like, okay, I can go a bit further into this. And to understand how I actually went about this, it goes into a bunch of my basic 101 stuff like manipulating souls, stacking abilities, all that jazz. Talk about like basic enhancement abilities and how to manipulate with those or toy around with those. You can look at all those videos in the description. But that's one way you can that's one formula you can go for. It's a really cheap formula. If you just want something, that's something you can go for. But that's if you farm for it. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way to buy these pieces unless it's like stupidly cheap. So let's say you have a bunch of Apprentice and Modulators. So if you have a bunch of Apprentice souls, what you can do is try to increase those percentages, and then a bunch of Modulators as well. You can get these to be used in your formula. You will want to try to get 3. And then you might want to manipulate these pieces. Or they might drop with certain pieces like a Might. A Might 3. And let's push this to a 4-slot instead. Actually, no, this is going to give you a natural drop. This is going to be, like, tampered with because I'm going to put a... No, Fevers can't work with a modulator. Actually, no, regular season of... any other season Fevers, or maybe just an Arc's Fever can work with this. What'd I do? I accidentally click on that. No, not that. My Arc's Fever. So this does require a bit more pieces to actually get these specific pieces. But once again, if you've been farming for it, shouldn't be as bad. Like, to make something like the base fodder... Yeah, base and fodder 1. What you'll need would be... Now, you can use 3 in your formula, or you go with 2. It depends on if you want to gamble, just because because you don't want to use up a lot of pieces. So if I went something like this, And and if it's like a low slot, let's say I have a bunch of 3 slots, I can gamble and see if I can push it. If I have a bunch of 4 slots, I don't mind using those. I can use those instead. So I might have something like this. I want to try to gamble it. With the 10%, it allows me to push some of those percentages to something that's workable. Use a 30%. My 3 isn't at 100, but you know, it's high up there. It's at a 96, and then there's an Apprentice, so at 75%, that's good compared to like a 50%. But there's still a margin error of 25. This is entirely up to you. Like if I decide to do it, it decides to work. It decides to work on 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So you got a high chance for it to work. And then that's how you get these pieces over here. Then to get like modulated with Arc's Fever. Let me make sure that you can actually do this. Now you don't want to get Arc's Max because apparently if you get Arc's Max, you can't get a modulator with that. You see that it overwrites each other. So if I have a modulator and an Arc's Fever, you might be wondering, why do I want just an Arc's Fever? Because the Arc's Fever by itself does give a lot of PP. It does give a bunch of other stats, but that plus 5 PP is actually quite useful. You could go for another fever like, I don't know, Latin or something that you might have that will help you. If you want to try to increase like your R attack power, you can go for the Santa Fever. Although you guys don't have Christmas yet. You guys didn't go through Christmas yet, so some of them you don't have. But if you decide to just use the Arc's Fever, it does give a lot in terms of PP. And if you want to try to increase your PP, and it gives a bit of other stats, but you know, it's something to think on. Especially since you can't combine an Arc's Max and a Modulator. But if I wanted to try to make something like this sort of fix right here, there's a way to actually go about making a Might 4. But if I want to keep it simple like this, guess what? Those percentages are workable. And all I need to do is use 10% and boom. I get something guaranteed. This thing can give me plus 5 PP and a good whopping melee power of plus 105, and then range and technique plus 35. But once again, you do need to manipulate this in a way, because if I wanted to get this particular piece over here for 4 and 5, and even 3, like if you're just getting for 1 fever, then you can easily save your pieces by just having this. So if I wanted to make fodder 5, what I would need to do, you could use 2, you could try to push it and use 3. It's better because you can see that's a huge dump. So all I need to do is like gamble with these things. Just these 2. Now you can approach it in several ways. You could try to upslot this. Let's say if it's at a 3 slot, you're trying to go for a 4 slot. You can gamble. It's not gonna look like, it's not gonna be a good percentage though, because it's gonna be bad for that modulator. It's in the 30. You use 30%, you're gambling at 61. Depends on you if you want to do that. If you want to play it safe though, if you have a bunch of modulators and you're okay with doing something like this so you can get the Arc's Fever to transfer, just use you can use a 30%, you can get high percentages, and like it's not at 100%, but this is most likely going to transfer almost all of the time. You'll still get that like negative 4% to kick in, but it's going to be rare. Hopefully it does not happen to you if you decide to do this. But yeah, that's how you can go about making one of these other formulas as well. Alright, so you might not want Apprentice, so let's say you want something like this, but instead of Apprentice, so actually no, excuse me. You might want something like this thing over here. But instead of having these, you want the Soul, like, what is it called? I don't know why it's spelled differently. Fuck. It's at the bottom, isn't it? It should be. So they do have the EXO. I think, no, was that added into episode 6? Can't remember. But you got Acto D Soul, Tier D Soul, Magi D Soul. Oh god. Why didn't they just leave it with D Soul? Why does it have to be DI? Nitpicky stuff. Anyways, maybe you want something like these abilities instead of Apprentice Soul. So let me copy this. And then let me work with it. So to get these particular souls, you don't want to actually get the physical D soul. You want to try to make it. Best way to go about that would be to get total soul with what the bloody hell? These names are gonna piss me off because I am not familiar with the English variants of these motherfuckers. Alright, so what the fuck is that? Easter. What the fuck? Someone explain to me what the hell is an Eastern Soul? That better not be the train. I'm kind of speechless right now. Let me get out of this bullshit. Okay, so going back on topic. So yeah, if I decide to use Eastern Soul, the fuck is the Eastern Soul? The hell? I'm trying to get over it right now. Holy shit. So, let's say you want to try to get a bunch of melee power. So, you could go something like this instead. Oh, wait. Instead of modulator. If you don't have a bunch of modulators and you have a bunch of arcs, you could go for that instead. You can also... Let's say you have a bunch of factors. Which one would be a good one? If we're increasing on melee power, you would want Deuce Factor. So you'll need 3 of them to increase the... to get the highest percentage. Because, yeah, 2 of them 30%, 3 of them is 50%. So you got Deuce Factor in here with a bunch of Arc's Fever. And to manipulate this, you'll need to gamble. Or you might have a bunch of them. I just realized this is useless in a sense. What you can also do... Now, if it's on a weapon, it's a different story. Note that these affixes are going to be emphasizing a lot on the units. I will talk about the weapons in a separate video. Because there's a lot of things you got to toy around with. I mean, it's simple, but at the same time, you need to understand how to manipulate them properly and how to go about it. So let me say I have a bunch of Might 3s and I have a mutation 2. I can push for a Might 4. So if I wanted to Acto D Soul, Deuce Factor, Arcs Max, and then Might 4. And then if I were to use a 30%, you can see most of these are at a high percentage except the Deuce Factor. This is going to give me a whopping plus 115 melee power, plus 35 in R and T, and then HP is plus 20, and then PP is plus 4. You can use whatever you need to get in terms of whatever other attack power. If you want to try to emphasize on like S or R attack, just swap accordingly. So for this, instead of going for Might 3 and stuff, you would go for Precision 3. So you can emphasize on S attack. Instead of going for Acto, you go for Tier. And then for the Factor, you're not going to go for Deuce Factor. You'll go for what other factor that can give you your R attack, and I think it's Yamato. Yeah, Yamato gives you plus 20, so you can go for that instead. Entirely up to you on how you want to configure this, how you want to toy around with it. I'll once again have these in the description, and you might be saying, how exactly am I going to get the Father 3, 4, and 5? So, pretty much, it's going to be like, you just need 1 Arc's Fevers. You can gamble with this, or you can gamble with this. And you can add however many junk abilities you can. I'll let you guys do that. So, let me talk about well-rounded units ability, or trying to emphasize on a lot of other multipliers. It's going to be hard, because you guys don't have unit receptors. Now, with the weapon receptors, that is a thing, because of SAFs. And I think someone mentioned the fact that when it comes to your challenge miles rewards, you get Soul Receptor on a weapon, but I don't know how many slots it is. But with the lack of receptors, you can't really go for like Astral Soul and Ether Factor. Those two together will give you a lot of stat multipliers, which you would definitely want to have if you were trying to emphasize on a bunch of other stats. Like if I decide to... Yeah, so note that I don't know if you guys have these. I highly doubt it. But this would help you go towards like an all-rounder. I think offense. I think you guys got offensive intent, which is a pop item. I might be wrong. Let's see. Yeah, offense focus. That might be a thing. Well, I don't know if it's physically in-game, but what other things? What other things? Trying to think of some other abilities that will emphasize on a lot of stuff. You got modulators and arcs, but it doesn't emphasize on the actual... Doesn't emphasize on like all the other stats. You could go for an ability 3. But yeah, this one, for example, this one's hard to get just because like you guys don't have those receptors. You can't finalize like the you can't finalize these Astral, Soul and Factor. It's just that without these receptors, you can't combine them all, so you can get something that's gonna heavily emphasize on all these different multipliers that you are trying to go for. So if I went and tried to finalize this thing, for example, with these abilities over here, I don't know if you got like this offense intent. So if you guys know, if you do have it, let me know. What about? I know that I stared at you. Where are you? Or is it attack? It's either offense focus or it's attack inherit. I think it's a offense. Yeah, offense. So it should give a lot of multipliers. But yeah, if I use a 30% on this, if I have 4 slot protections, I don't know if you guys even have that in the recycle shop right now. But this thing would emphasize on a lot of stats, and it gives you a good chunk of almost everything. But once again, without those receptors, you can't really do that. Like, you can try to make one of these on a unit, but it's not going to be possible to combine it all without those receptors. So if I want to, let's say, get Astral Soul, you can, and then you could try to emphasize on, wait, what the fuck is that? Oh, Catalyst, nah. That's not what I wanted. Where the fuck are you? There you go. And then you need Darkness. Is it called Darkness Soul over here? Yes, it is. Okay, thank God, because I was gonna... Ignoring what I was about to say. That's gonna be that instead. I'll leave the fevers as they are. That's gonna be annoying though. I'll leave the... Get rid of these factors. Get rid of that. Get that over here instead. You really don't need that thing in there. So your end goal with this one is Astral Soul Mastery 3. You need something else. You can use a pop item to fill in the gap. Like you can do HPPP. If you've got offense intent, you could do that too. I'll let you guys toy around with this one. The problem is, like, yeah, you don't have, like, a lot of all-rounders, though. Let's say something like that. At the very least, you get, like, 90, 50, 75, 35. And 6 PP. And this, once again, most of these are for a unit. Now, if you don't want Astral Soul, you want to try to go get Ether Factor instead. Because you have a bunch of those abilities. Let me just copy this. What is Factor Catalyst? I love how they still have the names for these catalysts as they are. And then you need Ether Soul. If you don't know how to make these, I do have videos talking about it. You can look at the description. So you could do something like this, which is Ether Factor, Mastery 3, Arcs Max, and then you can use a pop. to try to get the offense one, but this is more on the star gem side of things. If you have something else like noble power boost item, you can use that instead. Where the fuck is the offense one? Because that emphasizes on the other multipliers. You can change the pop item. Once again, there will be a link for all these formulas in the description. So yeah, you can see that it's not as high, unlike the Astral one. I think it does give a lot more PP though. At least one more PP. Yeah, it does give one more PP. One more PP. So yeah, that's another way to go about it. You'll notice that I didn't really push for 5 slots with these formulas. I can show you guys some 5 slots. I would advise you guys not to though. How long is this video already? It's like 21 minutes. So I'll leave it at that. If you do want me to, if you want me to show you guys some 5-slot unit affixes, I will have it. There will be a video talking about the affix formulas for weapons in terms of North America. But yeah, like these are some easy ones that you could try to aim for. The last few formulas that I made, they're more on the hard part. One of them is like not possible because if these are not on units, you can't really do this sort of affix, which once again, it does emphasize heavily on a bunch of stuff. Maybe you don't want to use that offense focus. You might want to use like a PP HP item instead. You can swap that out. But the point of this formula was to just show you guys how many multipliers are being, or how many stats are getting a huge increase. But yeah, this is like a very simple one. If you really don't want to fix as much just yet, stick with like easy affixes and you farm for these pieces. You just want to just have something just for your temporary weapon center units. You can easily do this with just using a 10% ability success. With the 10%, boom, you're not spending as much. I think this is actually roughly below 3 mil if you decide to do this sort of affix on all of your units. This one, bit more costly and you manipulating a bit more, but if you farm for those pieces and you want to do this, you can toy around with this. Instead of getting might 3, you could push for might 4. So if I wanted to, let's say, let me do something like this and let me get a mutation 2 instead. You can obviously toy around with this and fix it again to what it was prior to, but then I could do something like this and then use a 30%, everything's at 100. Now I got 110 melee power, plus 5 dex, and plus 5 PP. Then you got... what the fuck? Oh wait, no, that's explaining how you can get some of these pieces. So ignoring that panel, then you got something like this, which is just having Acti-Soul with a Deuce Factor, with an Arcs Max, and then a Might 4. You can swap these accordingly. You get a bit of HP, a good chunk of PP, and then attack. This one, well, that explains how to go about getting Deuce and Arcs Max together, or Arcs Fever together. This one's not possible until you get those receptors. Then this one is just focusing solely on Astral, and then also on the other multipliers that you could try to get. And then same with this one, but instead of Astral, it's Ether Factor. And you might want to change that offense boost. Like, if you do change this, though, if it's at 85, it might get decreased to a lower number because... let's say, I think you guys got... no, not that one. I don't think you have that. You might get the new upgrade of this pop item. So you got Noble right now. You might get the Elegant from the boost week. So you can see that the attack got decreased a bit, but you get an increase in your HP and PP. And then if you want to, you can use the grade 2 if it does drop or it pops up with that Affix week boost, you get this. So that is it for this video. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comments below. Once again, this will be in the description. Now, my opinion about this, and this is my opinion, is the fact that they shouldn't really give you guys an affix week at the end of episode 4. But like, yes, maybe it's good for you guys, but with episode 5, it's have a lot more abilities, and you will want to try to fix those and have a boost week for those. Maybe they will do that at the end of episode 5 now. Honestly, they should give you guys a lot more boost week, because yeah, they should just give you a lot more, because I think you guys only had 1 boost week throughout the time of North America, which is bad. But it kind of tells you guys, like, yeah, you don't need to fix just yet, but still, it's, if some people really want to get into it, or at least, like, you know, have a slight boost to do certain things and get a profit off of it, or make some of their fixes, they should have some boost regardless of where it is at. Like, maybe in the middle of episode 4, it would have been great to have a boost week. Doing it at the end of episode 4 is questionable. In my opinion, I don't like it. You might have a different opinion. If you want to say that, put it down below. But that is it for this video. Once again, I'll have separate videos going into the weapon affixes. And then, if you guys want me to do 5 slots in 6 slot affixes, then let me know. But for now, I'll leave it at the 3 slot, 4 slot, because these are easy to toy around with. And once again, you can manipulate these so you can have different other abilities as well, instead of using these offense focus. Thank you guys for watching. See you. Peace.